Hello, welcome to my couch. Tonight I want to talk about neurons, my most favorite things in the entire planet. But before I go into too much detail about the way that neurons fire and the way our bodies are wired for efficiency, I want to talk to you about my own journey with understanding my own personal nervous system and how it's helped me overcome a lot of my mental struggles. I just graduated from the University of Utah with a bachelor's degree in psychology in spring of 2017. While studying, I was required to take clinical psychology, and through taking that course, I learned that I had almost all of the markers for PTSD. That which sparked a huge um, search of information about trauma and the way that our bodies react to trauma and what is PTSD and how do you overcome PTSD, what are all of the different therapies that we can do. And I've definitely gone to therapy, but I've done my own version of exposure therapy to try and overcome my own triggers and my own flashbacks so that I can be a whole human that responds to stimuli appropriately instead of inappropriately. So in order for me to get there, to teach you what I learned, I want to teach you about the nervous system and how neurons work. So this is a neuron, and I did not draw this. I traced it off of the internet. In our bodies, we have, on average, a human being has 100 billion neurons. And every single neuron, on average, is connected to 10,000 other neurons. So something that's commonly misunderstood about the nervous system is that information travels only one way. A lot of people think that neurons talk to each other, and they do talk to each other, but not in the way that we think they do. Like, the signal only goes down the axon. It doesn't ever go back up the axon. So this neuron right here has the potential to be connected to 10,000 other neurons. And what those neurons are doing are essentially sending plus and negative charges to this neuron that triggers whether or not this neuron will send the signal down here into the synapse. The synapse exists on the end of the dendrites. These are the dendrites. So let's say that this is a neuron for dopamine, because every neuron only creates, if it creates a neurotransmitter, it only makes one transmitter at a time. So this is a dopamine neuron, and it gets all of the signals come in, and the cell body reaches negative 50 millivolts, and the signal travels down the axon down here where there are these little capsule like things that hold dopamine that then are released down here in the synapse, and the synapse connects to another neuron, and it's going to send a plus or a negative to the next neuron depending on what happens in the synapse. So neurons, information only travels down them, and when they fire together, they wire together. So our bodies are wired for efficiency. It wants to conserve energy no matter the cost. So what our nervous system ends up doing is it goes around and it wraps myelin on the axon of the neuron. And what myelin is a fatty tissue. And if you actually look at the axon, if the axon is right here, the myelin goes and it wraps itself around the axon, so it makes it so that the signal can travel faster down the neuron. So neurons are in our entire body. It is the way that our bodies receive information from the environment. They're in our eyes, they're in our ears, in our mouth, on our skin. We have sensors or neurons that sense pressure, pain, and temperature. They're in our muscles. So I'm going to give you a couple explanations of the way that neurons get more efficient. So let's say that you are a painter and you do really minute details on glass. And when you first start, it's really hard. It costs a lot of energy for you to be able to do the repetitive brushstrokes in that little small area that you're trying to paint on. But the more that you paint and the more that you do it, the easier it gets. It's because your body is sending support to all of the cells that are trying to help you do that motion. And that's myelin. So whenever you hear the word neuroplasticity, essentially what we're saying is the nervous system is becoming more efficient by giving more resources. So neuroplasticity means the changing of resources. So if you don't practice those fine painting skills, you lose them because your body no longer sends the support, the cell support to that area in order for you to be able to continue to do that. This also goes for thoughts, because I think it's really important to understand that thoughts are biology. Thoughts are a product of human beings, and human beings are part of an ecosystem, and we are biology. So your thoughts are also connected to your neurons. So let's say that you have this belief system that you're worthless, and you have thought this for your entire life, and you're 25 years old, so you have 25 years, well, maybe not 25, we'll say like 20 years, maybe 23 years that you can really remember, that you've been thinking this negative thought. So you've got myelin that is on those axons of those neurons that's making those cells move as fast as they can. That beliefs that thought is no longer a choice, it's a belief system. And let's say that one day you wake up and you're like, wow, or something happens and you're like, wow, I'm really not worthless. Like, that's such a silly belief to have. And you're like, I'm going to change that belief. And you go out, and maybe for like 10 minutes of the day, you have this really great glow about you, and you feel worthwhile, and like you're worthy to be on the planet. And then very quickly, you begin to start thinking those thoughts about worthlessness again. Those 10 minutes were a complete win. For 10 minutes, you were fighting against the biology of your body, against the neurons that have myelinated on that thought process, on whatever it is, about you not being pretty, about not having enough, whatever it is. Your body has sent support to those negative thoughts, and in order to unravel those negative thoughts, in order to unravel the way that you respond to stimuli, you have to start to practice different things. And it's literally about faking it until you make it, because as you fake it, your body will start to send support cells to those things that you're trying to change, and take them away from the things that you don't want anymore. Because as long as you continue to do something different and you stop practicing your previous practices, then you're very gradually giving yourself a chance to think differently. And because, yeah, neurons are cool, but you can't, I honestly don't think, I think it's much easier to understand that because our bodies are so efficient, that they actually don't always help us out in their efficiency, and we can't always trust our bodies at first. So start a practice of listening to your body so that you can start to notice those neurons that lead you down those neuronal pathways, that lead you down thoughts where you don't believe in your own self-worth, because you are worth it. And it's going to take a lot of patience in order to change who you are. But changing the way that we respond to stimuli and making it a conscious choice is life-altering in so many ways. And so much joy and growth comes out of it if you're willing to do the work. So do the work.